So today I am in London, just a stone's throw away from Chelsea Stadium, football stadium that is, and we are exploring a very interesting green space, very different to most others in London. It's a cemetery. Now, you may quite rightly be thinking, Watson, what are you doing in a cemetery? There can't be anything interesting here. Well, London has this weird relationship with its cemeteries. There are 7 major ones around what were, once upon a time, the outskirts of London. Doesn't feel like that now. And they are referred to as the Magnificent Seven, which is just a fabulous, cute name for a place absolutely filled with dead people. Oh, so how about a quick bit of Watson's storytelling? I fell onto this place completely by accident coming home from work one day. Well, not home, but to a hotel. Same thing when you travel around like I do a lot. And yeah, I fell in love with it. I ended up having to stay here for a couple of hours waiting for the hotel to open. And I think the place got to my head. The place is full of interesting dead people, as most places are. Dr. John Snow, the discoverer of cholera, and Emily Pankhurst, the infamous suffragette, are both buried here. Hopefully you're seeing pictures of their gravestones right now if I can find them. But their tombs are normal. They do what normal tombs do, which is store dead people. There is one here that is rumoured to not do that. Let's go and have a look at it. Also, I want to point out, I found just this circle of stumps here for people to sit in and have a chat, I guess. Wow. Well, as always, there's no mucking about with me. This is the main event, the tomb of Hannah Courtois. Or Courtney? I don't know. Victorian's pronunciation is weird, and that's English. How do you think I'd cope with another language? This tomb is supposedly a time machine. Yeah, it's a strange one, so sit down. I'm going to as well, so give me a second. So, this is the tomb of Hannah Courtois, or however you pronounce the surname, as I just mentioned. And she's a wealthy heiress to a mercantile family, and a life so interesting that the section on her life on her Wikipedia page is shorter than the section about this tomb. So, clearly a very important person to this story, and definitely not mostly brushed over because she's a woman. The 2 other important characters in this tale are the architect for this tomb and lover of all things Egypt, Joseph Bromie, whose own slightly less grand tombstone can be found also in the park. He, as I said, was the designer for this place and became obsessed with Egyptology after ending up on a mission to Egypt, mostly to pay off debts. This was a period of time in English history where the Victorians had become obsessed with Egypt and Egyptology to the point where it was called Egyptomania or something along those lines of equal ridiculousness. There was an idea that the fall of the Egypt's empire, kingdom, was reflected in the Victorian era. It's not clear what part of Egyptian history they were talking about. They probably didn't know either. But regardless, there's definitely this big connection here. And that connects back to the tomb, as hopefully as you can see right now. It is covered in kind of hieroglyphic symbols that look almost like they could be a real hieroglyph, but just are not. The other important person of this story and friend of Hannah is Samuel Vaughan. He is an interesting charlatan who tried to convince the British Navy that he had invented an invisible mine in the late Victorian period. While doing so, he actually did successfully, they allowed him to test this mine, and he did successfully blow up one of the ships. However, the Navy decided it was a load of rubbish. No records are actually kept of what happened on the training exercise apart from one of the ships got blown up. So we don't know. Maybe it's a conspiracy. It's almost definitely not, but you never know. Anyway, he was also a good friend and possible co-designer. His grave is also somewhere in Brompton Cemetery, but it's unmarked. No one knows where it is apart from a record that he was buried here. So maybe he's in the tomb, and the tomb is a time machine. Okay, so how do we get to the tomb being a time machine? There isn't much of a connection between all 3 of these individuals and it being a time machine, apart from the fact there's a lot of money involved. There's magic, futuristic tech, and Egypt. They're your options. The original source, like the first time I could see this idea put together in any sort of way, is in an article on what would go on to be the Daily Mail in the 1990s. So that's where we're coming from here. I have this pet theory that This was a period of time where nerd culture was going through its own Egyptomania with Stargate. So maybe some nerds put two and two together and decided this would make quite a cool time machine. I don't know, it makes quite a good story. It's an alternative Doctor Who. And if I had the budget now, it would be disappearing away in the background. But I don't know if that would work given I'm sitting on it. Let's go hunt down those other tombstones, shall we? Also guys, you are not going to believe this. While I was taking some wide shots of the tomb, I put my ear up to it, just mucking about with it, and you listen, listen. So there's Hannah's tomb, and if we just rotate 90 degrees, it's Joseph's. And as you can see, a lot more of a classic Christian symbol at the top, with an alpha and omega next to it, which is, you know, some spicy grease on the side. You seem to be interested in everything. He does call himself an actual archaeologist here, so fair enough. But on the bottom we do have this image of Anubis, pointing towards where the tomb is, funnily enough. He's on top of something, but I don't think we can call it the tomb. Imagine if it was. That would have really added to the story. God damn it, Joseph. God damn it. And also, before we bid farewell to all this science fiction time travel-y stuff, I've got to say, there's a fair few weeping angels around, so don't blink. As you can see, the place was designed for a very Mediterranean feel to it. The original circle, designed in a similar manner to Rome's Plaza, or should I say pizza, because it's in Italy. It's terrible. So the original development of this land was an absolute farce. The original issues came with trying to get an agreement with the gas company that owned it, the fact that the board of directors barely ever turned up to their meetings, to the point where the chairperson left after only 2 sessions of them actually being there, the fact that the design of the place was based on a competition of taste. So the design was more about what it looked like than how plausible it would be. And the fact that burying people doesn't make a lot of money, and they wanted something very grand to fill the space. This got bad. After a year after opening, they'd only made a few grand, and with shareholders demanding their money back, they had to start improvising. As well as changing the chairboard and stuff, they opened up a lot more land to be used for graveyards. The site behind me wasn't designed for people to be buried in. It was supposed to be an open space. As you can see, that didn't quite happen, did it? This chapel behind me was supposed to be one of 3. This original one at the back was the one for members of the Church of England, with the other 2 being for the Catholic Church and for non-conformists of any variety. Nowadays it's actually still in use. Not just the chapel, the whole graveyard. You can get buried here for the low price of £9,000 for 75 years. Yep, your gravestone is on a leash. But, to be honest, for prime real estate in the middle of the Chelsea area of London, it sounds like a pretty good bargain. It's probably less than I'm paying for my current bed. Maybe it's worth the investment. That little guy just then does remind me of one story. Beatrix Potter grew up in this area, and one of the stories goes that she used the names of these tombs to help come up with the names for her characters. And it adds up. There's a ton of Mr. McGregors and so on and so forth. But I quite like it. Also, Brompton Cemetery, I think, has the friendliest wildlife of any of the London parks. I've spent my time in London parks now, or at least I'm trying to, and yeah, the squirrels are friendly. They'll come up and say hi. The pigeons. But the squirrels are particularly friendly here. Maybe if this was like on TikTok, I'd be like, oh, maybe it is the spirits telling them. Maybe they are spirits of the people here. Which, if that's your boat, let it float. I just think that it's because a lot of people are a lot quieter here. You don't get as many kids running through. So, the animals are more chill. Yeah. I think one of the things this video is going to struggle to get across that I really love about this place is the variety of gravestones. If you go to a churchyard in East Rural Britain, you'll have a lot of very similar curved shapes. But here, we've got interesting layered crosses, we've got pagan imagery, we've got people with anchors who are clearly naval officers, we've got great big mausoleums as we saw earlier with our time machine, we've got angels, we've got this huge variety, and it's a real nice reminder on the variety of the human beings whose bodies are now buried underneath there. So on some of the promotional material for this place, it talks about being a really good place to rest, which of course is supposed to be a bit of a pun given the residents of here are and ever will be. But it is. It's a very good spot for rest and reflection. We've talked about some interesting stories and some of the interesting people here, and there are hundreds more. There's a great page on the Royal Parks website which lists their top 100, but there are also so many people in tombs here who have no names, who are unmarked, and are in tombs of 10 other people. I've been reading a really good book about this kind of stuff recently called Vagabond, and it talks about these lives of these people who will be forgotten to history, as most of us will, and that's fine, but their stories are equally important. And they did equally interesting stuff. I don't know, I was kind of hoping to find something really big in delivering that, some big positive message. But I find it positive, I find it really positive just chilling here. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's a bit out there, but then this is only video number 2 in the series, so I could do anything yet. You wait! If you have, show some support in the comments. If you haven't, tell me and I'll probably make it better. Why not? Have fun everyone. I'll see you on the next journey.